Joining me now is someone who is in the room interviewing Howard Lutnick, Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari, Democrat of Arizona. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. First, just your impressions, what you learned from Howard Lutnick in this testimony today.
Well, honestly, today was a wild experience. I think, we've been conducting this investigation for several months now, but today's deposition was very jarring. I think Howard Lutnick was lying over and over and over again. You showed a bit of that podcast where he famously said just last year, in 2025, that he thought Jeffrey Epstein was disgusting and that when he met him in 2005, his wife and him decided that he would never see him again. And then, of course, it came to light that in 2012, he did go to the island. We asked him about all of this at length today. And I found two things very interesting about what he tried to say today that made me question his credibility and made me believe that he is lying. First of all, he was asked about how last year he said that he believed that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing people. And today, when he was asked whether or not he believes that, he said that he does not. And when he was pressed on why that's the case, he said that it's because of conversations he's had with administration officials. And then when pressed again, he said actually he's had no conversations with administration officials about it, and that actually it's from public statements from administration officials. So a lot of very questionable and, quite frankly, lies, again, coming over and over again from Lutnick. I also pressed him about his knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes when he decided to go to the island in 2012. I was a child in 2008 when, of course, Jeffrey Epstein got this crazy sweetheart deal when he was accused of abusing girls, children, and then ultimately was prosecuted, although through this sweetheart deal. Howard Lutnick tried to tell us today that he knew nothing about that. I mean, if that is not the biggest lie imaginable, I don't know what is. Everybody knew about Jeffrey Epstein, at least about accusations against him, even if you didn't believe the accusation. So this is someone who, again, may not be criminal wrongdoing, but he's clearly lying to the American people. I believe that he lied under oath today. There's a reason to me that Republicans decided not to have this interview recorded and released to the American public. I recommend every single American go and read the transcription when it does come out, because you will find somebody who is clearly lying, is clearly part of a White House cover-up, and that's why this investigation is really just getting started.
Sorry, I want to make sure that I understand this. You said, was he under oath or not?
This was a written transcription. And so, I mean, he is speaking to Congress. I believe he was under oath, but it's just not recorded and being released.
And who decided that it wouldn't be videotaped?
I tried to ask this question today, and it was very unclear. They said that they've been in negotiations with the Republican majority and would not be clear about whether it was a request from Lutnick or whether or not this was something that was a decision made by Chairman Comer.
So I just want to make sure I have this clear. So Lutnick's testimony to you today was that in 2012, when he and his children and his wife and their nannies had lunch with Jeffrey Epstein on his island and were photographed there, he said they all departed with all children and all nannies. I want to put that on the record. That he did that and having no idea of the accusations of Jeffrey Epstein or the plea deal, despite the fact that he told the New York Post that he found the guy disgusting, who was his neighbor, and presumably, I would think, Googled the guy. So that his testimony today was he had no idea about any of that.
I think he said he did not recall, he did not know, he was not aware, and that's when, I honestly got a little bit upset because, again, it's like I knew about it. I was a kid at the time. It was all over the news, and this man was your neighbor. And again, part of his testimony throughout this, he gave a whole story about how they met in 2005. He recounted much of what he said in the podcast and said that he stood by it, that they did find him unsettling, that his wife really felt uncomfortable around him, and that they agreed that there would be no personal, social, professional relationship. Then later he admitted that going to his island would be considered a social relationship. So, I mean, this is where he got pretty defensive, and he, just didn't really, he felt very uncomfortable. It was very clear because I'm sure it felt ridiculous coming out of his mouth, the words that he was saying.
Finally and quickly to you, we have news tonight about this purported suicide note discovered and now released that Jeffrey Epstein, again, is sort of said to have written, that was found by the cellmate in a book subsequently that has now been unearthed, in which he says they investigated me for a month, found nothing, so 10-year-old charges resulted. It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. What you want me to do? Burst out crying? No fun. Not worth it. I have absolutely no idea myself whether this is authentic or not, how one would go about authenticating it, but what is your position from the Oversight Committee?
I mean, obviously, this just came out in the last couple of hours. I think important to wait to see if it can be authenticated, who would be doing that. I agree. I mean, this all kind of goes back to the Department of Justice, though, in my mind. I mean, this is the Department of Justice. This should be one of their #1 priorities, this investigation. It was promised to us, actually, by this administration that it would be. And, of course, we know everything that's happened since. But, again, this is allegedly a note from 2019, now coming to light. I think hopefully, we need to be demanding that this, is validated or not. But I don't really know that it makes a difference in any tangible way. There is clearly an ongoing cover-up happening from the White House because there's constantly new information and there's constantly attempts to withhold information from there's so much in the Epstein files that we still need to find out whether or not those materials are authentic. And I know all of us on the Oversight Committee are eager to know that, but the American public, in such a bipartisan basis, this is a huge, huge priority for Americans, and justice for the survivors is still long overdue, and it feels like we're not even close.
Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.